Imagine the first light of dawn filtering through your window, a soft gray promise of a new day. But before your feet even touch the floor, before your lungs have fully expanded with the morning air, your hand has already found it. The cold, smooth glass of your smartphone is the first thing you touch, a digital umbilical cord that anchors you to a world that never sleeps. You tell yourself you are just checking the time, or perhaps the weather. But within seconds, the familiar blue light has hijacked your optic nerve, and you are descending into the infinite scroll. You are consuming the thoughts, the outrages, the successes, and the curated fictions of thousands of strangers before you have even whispered a word to the person lying next to you, or acknowledged the quiet miracle of your own existence. Statistics suggest that the average person touches their phone over 2,600 times a day, a staggering frequency that points to a profound psychological tethering. We have become architects of our own distraction, building labyrinths of notifications and algorithms that ensure we are never truly alone with our thoughts. This is the reality of digital overload, a modern weight that sits heavy on the chest of the collective consciousness, leaving us feeling perpetually hurried, strangely empty, and profoundly fragmented. The question that haunts the edges of our frantic modern lives is no longer whether we can stay connected, but whether we can ever truly disconnect. Is it possible to reclaim the sovereignty of your own mind in an age where your attention is the most valuable commodity on earth? Or have we already surrendered the keys to the inner citadel? We move through our days in a state of continuous partial attention, physically present, but mentally elsewhere, existing in a ghostly middle ground between the tangible world and the digital ether. This constant flickering of the spirit creates a low-level hum of anxiety, a sense that we are missing something even when we are holding the entire world in our palms. The tragedy is not just that we are distracted, but that we are losing the capacity for depth, for the long-form contemplation that defines the human experience. We are trading our wisdom for information, our peace for stimulation, and our presence for a digital shadow. Yet, beneath the noise, there is a quiet power waiting to be rediscovered, a version of you that is not defined by a feed or a follower count. This journey is about more than just putting down a device. It is about reclaiming the sanctity of the present moment and understanding that your focus is the primary tool through which you build your reality. As we explore the mechanics of this digital siege, we will begin to see that the prison walls are made of light and code, and the exit is not a place you go, but a choice you make. It is time to stop being a passive observer of your own life and start becoming the conscious director of your internal world. For the most revolutionary act you can perform in a world of constant noise is to simply be still and pay attention. The mechanisms of this digital overload are not accidental. They are the result of an invisible war being waged for the territory of your brain. Every notification is a strategic strike, a dopamine-laced hook designed to exploit the ancient biological wiring that once helped our ancestors survive. In the savannah, a sudden movement or a sharp sound meant a predator or a source of food, and our brains evolved to prioritize that immediate feedback above all else. Today, those same survival circuits are being triggered by the red dot of a missed call or the ping of a new message, creating a state of chronic hypervigilance that our nervous systems were never meant to sustain. We are living in a permanent state of emergency over things that do not matter, treating an email from a coworker with the same physiological intensity as a threat to our physical safety. This biological hijacking creates a thinning of the self, where our ability to engage in deep work or profound connection is eroded by the constant demand for the new. We have become like gamblers at a slot machine, pulling the lever of the infinite scroll in hopes of a variable reward, a bit of news or a social validation that will temporarily soothe the itch of our restless minds. But the reward is always fleeting, leaving us more depleted than before, caught in a cycle of seeking that has no resolution. This fragmentation manifests in our daily lives as a profound inability to stay with a single task or thought. You sit down to read a book, but within 3 pages, the phantom vibration in your pocket pulls you away. You try to watch a sunset, but your first instinct is to view it through a lens, to capture a version of it for an audience that isn't there, rather than experiencing the warmth of the light on your own skin. We are losing the ability to be bored, yet it is in the fertile soil of boredom that creativity and self-reflection take root. By filling every micro-moment of our lives with digital noise, we are effectively silencing the inner voice that tells us who we are and what we truly value. The cost of this constant connectivity is a profound sense of alienation, not just from others, but from our own internal landscapes. We have become strangers to the silence, fearing the void that opens up when the screen goes dark, unaware that the void is actually the space where our soul resides. The Stoics taught that the mind should be an inner citadel, a fortress of reason and presence that cannot be breached by external chaos. But we have left the gates wide open, allowing every triviality of the digital world to storm the halls of our consciousness. We must realize that every time we give in to the mindless scroll, we are ceding a piece of our autonomy to a machine that does not care for our well-being. Reclaiming focus is therefore an act of rebellion, a refusal to let the most precious thing we own, our time, be auctioned off to the highest bidder in the attention economy. It requires a cold, hard look at the reality of our habits and the courage to admit that we have become servants to the tools that were supposed to serve us.
The erosion of focus does not stop at the individual. It bleeds into the very fabric of our relationships and our sense of community. When you sit across from a friend at a cafe, yet both of you have your phones resting on the table like a third, uninvited guest, you are sending a silent message that the digital world is more urgent than the human being in front of you. This is the phenomenon of phubbing, the act of snubbing someone in favor of a phone, and it acts as a slow-acting poison in our social lives. We are physically present, but our attention is bifurcated, split between the living, breathing person in our vicinity and the abstract demands of the internet. This lack of presence prevents the deep, soulful synchronization that happens when two people truly listen to one another, leading to a world where we are more connected than ever, but more lonely than we have ever been. We trade intimacy for intensity and vulnerability for visibility. In our professional lives, the damage is equally severe. The myth of multitasking has convinced us that we can juggle a dozen tabs and a constant stream of messages while still producing meaningful work. However, the psychological switching cost, the time it takes for the brain to refocus after an interruption, can waste up to 40% of our productive time. We are working longer hours, but accomplishing less of value, existing in a state of shallow work, where we perform rote tasks without ever entering the flow state required for true mastery or innovation. This creates a lingering sense of professional dissatisfaction and burnout, as we feel busy but never truly effective. The mental health consequences are a darkening cloud over our generation, with rising rates of anxiety and depression linked to the constant comparison trap of social media. We compare our messy, complex internal realities to the polished highlight reels of others, forgetting that every image is a curated lie designed to project a perfection that does not exist. This constant upward social comparison leaves us feeling inadequate and perpetually behind, driving us back to the very devices that caused the distress in a desperate search for a hit of validation. We are like thirsty men drinking salt water, hoping to quench a thirst that the water itself is creating. To break this cycle, we must adopt a stoic perspective on what is truly within our control. Epictetus reminded us that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them, and our view of the digital world has become one of perceived necessity rather than elective utility. We believe we must be available. We must know the latest news. We must respond immediately. But these are false imperatives. The world will continue to turn if you do not check your notifications for 4 hours. Your value as a human being is not tied to your responsiveness or your digital footprint. By recognizing that our attention is our only true possession, we begin to see the gravity of what we are throwing away. We are trading our lives, minute by minute, for things that will be forgotten by tomorrow morning. It is time to draw a line in the sand and decide that our focus is no longer for sale. Reclaiming your focus is not about a total retreat from the modern world. It is about establishing a new hierarchy of values where the human spirit sits at the top. The first step in this reclamation is the architectural redesign of your digital environment. Treat your smartphone not as a companion, but as a high-powered tool that stays in its toolbox until it is needed. A practical and immediate strategy is to turn your screen to grayscale. By removing the vibrant, enticing colors of the icons, you strip the device of its aesthetic allure, making it a functional object rather than a candy-colored distraction. You must also become a ruthless gatekeeper of your notifications. If a ping does not involve a genuine emergency or a time-sensitive human connection, it has no business interrupting your consciousness. Beyond the device, you must create sacred spaces in your day where technology is strictly forbidden. The first hour of your morning and the last hour of your evening should be digital-free zones, allowing your mind to wake up and wind down according to its natural rhythms, rather than the frantic pulse of the internet. During these times, engage in analog rituals. Read a physical book, write in a journal, or simply sit with a cup of coffee and watch the light change. These moments of stillness are the foundation of the inner citadel, providing you with a reservoir of peace that you can draw upon when you must eventually re-enter the digital fray. When you work, practice the art of the deep work sprint. Set a timer for 90 minutes, put your phone in another room, and commit to a single task with unwavering intensity. You will likely feel a sense of withdrawal, a physical itch to check your messages. But this is merely the addiction leaving the body. Sit with the discomfort, observe it with stoic detachment, and watch as it eventually fades, replaced by the profound satisfaction of true cognitive immersion. We must also learn to embrace boredom again, recognizing it as the necessary silence between the notes of our lives. When you are standing in line or waiting for a bus, resist the urge to pull out your phone. Instead, observe the world around you. Look at the architecture. Notice the expressions of the people nearby, or simply follow the thread of your own thoughts. By reclaiming these micro moments, you are training your brain to sustain attention
without the constant need for external stimulation. This is a process of rewilding the mind, allowing it to return to its natural state of curiosity and presence. Remember that your attention is a finite resource. Every time you give it away to something trivial, you have less of it for the things that truly matter: your passions, your loved ones, and your own growth. The goal is to move from being a consumer of life to a creator of it, to live with such intentionality that your focus becomes a laser, cutting through the noise to find the signal of what is true and beautiful. As you begin to reclaim these fragments of your day, you will feel a sense of power returning to you, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are once again the master of your own attention. This is the summary of our journey. The digital world is a tool, but your focus is your life. Protect it with the same ferocity you would protect your physical health. For in the end, the quality of your attention determines the quality of your existence. Start small, stay consistent, and remember that every moment you choose presence over distraction is a victory for your humanity. Now, as this video ends, I challenge you to not immediately move to the next one. Close this tab, put down your device, and spend the next 5 minutes in total silence, just to see what your own mind has to say to you. Your life is waiting for you in the quiet. Be brave enough to meet it there.